The Aerigale of Shadows. The stars above Mauna Kea Observatory flickered like distant beacons in the Hawaiian night. Dr. Lydia Chen stared at her monitor, brow furrowed in concentration. For 3 consecutive nights, the Deep Space Array had picked up the same anomalous signal, a perfectly structured pattern repeating at precise intervals. This wasn't random cosmic noise. "Dr. Reeves, you need to see this," she called to her colleague, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "The signal, it's changed." Dr. James Reeves hurried over, his eyes widening as he studied the readout. The pattern had shifted, becoming more complex, more deliberate, and it was getting stronger. "My God," he whispered. "They're coming closer." Across the globe, similar observatories confirmed the signal. Emergency meetings convened at the United Nations. Military forces worldwide were placed on high alert. After decades of searching the stars and wondering if we were alone, humanity had its answer, and it was rapidly approaching Earth. The first ships appeared 7 days later, emerging from what scientists would later identify as artificially generated wormholes. They were massive, sleek vessels that defied conventional physics, hovering in Earth's orbit like obsidian monoliths against the stars. Initial attempts at communication were met with silence. Then, after 36 tense hours, they responded. The aliens called themselves the Nelvari, a spacefaring empire that had conquered 17 star systems. Their message was simple: Earth had resources they required, particularly the rare minerals deep within the planet's crust. They offered humanity a choice: surrender and be subjugated as a servant race, or resist and be eliminated. They expect us to just give up. General Sarah Hawkins slammed her fist on the conference table at the Pentagon. "After everything our species has survived, their technology is centuries beyond ours." Secretary of Defense Williams countered, his face ashen. "Our most advanced weapons systems might as well be sticks and stones compared to what they have." President Eleanor Vance studied the holographic projections of the alien ships. "We've never surrendered before," she said quietly. "And we won't start today. Prepare all defenses." The Nelvari commander, Supreme Warlord Kazanar, received humanity's defiant response with something resembling amusement. In their countless conquests, most species eventually submitted. Those that resisted were crushed swiftly and completely. Humans would learn their place, just as all others had. The first attack came without warning. Energy weapons sliced through Earth's atmosphere, targeting military installations with surgical precision. Jets scrambled worldwide, only to be swatted from the sky like insects. Nuclear missiles launched in desperate retaliation detonated harmlessly against the aliens' energy shields. By the end of the first day, nearly 60% of Earth's conventional military capabilities had been neutralized. Major cities around the world suffered devastating strikes, with millions of casualties. The Nelvari established ground bases in strategic locations, deploying troops and mechanized units that moved with terrifying efficiency. Dr. Chen found herself evacuated to a subterranean facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, alongside other scientists deemed critical to Earth's survival. The complex, known as Bastion, had been constructed decades earlier as a contingency for extinction-level events. Now it served as one of humanity's last bastions of hope. The Nelvari technology operates on principles we've only theorized about, Dr. Chen explained to the assembled team. Their shields manipulate gravitational fields to deflect matter and energy. Their weapons harness dark energy in ways we've never conceived. "So we're completely outmatched," a young physicist muttered. "Not necessarily," came a voice from the back of the room. Dr. Amara Okafor, an archaeologist specializing in ancient technologies, stepped forward. "There might be something. A discovery we made 3 years ago that was classified beyond top secret." Dr. Okafor explained that her team had uncovered artifacts in Antarctica that didn't match any known human civilization. The site dated back over 100,000 years, suggesting an advanced non-human presence on Earth long before recorded history. The artifacts contained technology that defied conventional understanding, and one particular device had resisted all attempts at activation. "We called them the Luminars," Dr. Okafor continued. "Based on what we could decipher from their symbols, they were warriors, guardians who traveled the stars. And they left something here, something that might be our only hope." Within hours, the Antarctic artifacts were transported to Bastion. The central piece was a crystalline sphere approximately 1 meter in diameter, covered in intricate geometric patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. Initial tests had revealed that it contained extraordinary amounts of energy, but all attempts to access or harness it had failed. The Luminars must have had some connection to Earth, Dr. Okafor theorized. They wouldn't have left this here unless it was meant to be used someday. As the scientists worked tirelessly to unlock the artifact's secrets, the situation above ground deteriorated rapidly. The Nelvari had established control over most major urban centers, systematically dismantling human resistance. Survivors reported horrific scenes of humans being processed in massive facilities, either for labor assignments or biological experimentation. President Vance, operating from a mobile command center, authorized increasingly desperate guerrilla tactics. Resistance fighters around the world launched surprise attacks on Nelvari outposts, occasionally scoring minor victories. But for every alien they managed to kill, thousands more humans perished. At Bastion, frustration mounted as the artifact continued to resist all conventional approaches. Dr. Chen had been working for 72 hours straight, analyzing every wavelength of energy they could generate to trigger a response. Nothing worked. "What if we're thinking about this all wrong?" she said suddenly, staring at the sphere. "What if it's not meant to respond to technology at all?" Drawing on ancient texts that Dr. Okafor had translated, Chen hypothesized that the Luminars might have designed the device to respond to biological signatures, specifically human DNA. The texts had repeatedly mentioned the Luminars seeing potential in the young species they had encountered on Earth. With time running out, Dr. Chen placed her hand directly on the sphere's surface. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, almost imperceptibly, the patterns began to shift more rapidly. A soft blue light emanated from within, gradually intensifying until it filled the laboratory. "It's working," someone shouted as the sphere began to levitate, spinning slowly. The light coalesced into what appeared to be a three-dimensional star map, with Earth at its center. Countless points of light connected by intricate lines filled the room. Dr. Okafor stepped forward, her eyes wide with recognition. "These matched the symbols from the Antarctic site," she said, pointing to clusters of lights. I think this is showing us the Luminar Defense Network." According to the map, the Luminars had established a planetary defense system eons ago, with installations hidden deep beneath Earth's surface at strategic points around the globe. The central control mechanism, the sphere, had remained dormant, waiting for humanity to evolve to a point where they could activate it. As Dr. Chen studied the projections, she realized something that sent chills down her spine. The installation sites, they correspond to places the Nelvari have established their main bases, almost as if the Luminars knew this would happen, Dr. Reeves finished. As if they prepared for it. With renewed determination, the team worked to understand the activation sequence displayed by the sphere. They identified 7 primary installations that needed to be activated simultaneously to bring the full defense system online. The problem was that all 7 sites were now under heavy Nelvari control. President Vance authorized 7 elite strike teams, comprised of the best remaining Special Forces operators. Each team would be transported to a location near their target installation, carrying specialized equipment developed based on the sphere's data. The mission was named Operation Luminary Dawn. The teams deployed under cover of darkness, using stealth technology retrofitted with insights gained from studying Nelvari systems. They knew this was likely humanity's last chance. If they failed, Earth would fall completely within days. As the teams approached their targets, Dr. Chen monitored their progress from Bastion. The sphere had begun to pulse more rapidly, as if sensing the approaching confrontation. Something was about to change. For better or worse, the fate of humanity hung in the balance. The counter-offensive. Dawn broke over the Himalayas as Strike Team Echo approached their target. Captain Maya Rodriguez led her 4 remaining teammates through the snow-covered ravine, each step bringing them closer to the concealed Luminar installation. According to their intel, the Nelvari had established a major processing facility directly above it, either by coincidence or some deeper instinct that drew them to the ancient power source buried below. 600 meters to target, whispered Lieutenant Kwan, checking the specialized locator derived from the sphere's technology. Heavy activity ahead. Captain Rodriguez raised her hand, signaling the team to hold position. Through advanced optics, she could see Nelvari guards patrolling the perimeter, towering figures in biomechanical armor that enhanced their already formidable physiology. The aliens stood nearly 8 feet tall, with multiple upper limbs and reinforced exoskeletons. Direct confrontation would be suicide. Remember the objective, she reminded her team. We don't need to defeat them. We just need 5 minutes at the activation point. Around the world, the 6 other teams were simultaneously converging on their targets. Team Alpha in the Amazon basin, Team Bravo beneath the Egyptian desert, Team Charlie in the Australian outback, Teams Delta, Foxtrot, and Gulf approaching locations in Siberia, the African Great Lakes region, and the Pacific Ocean floor, respectively. All faced overwhelming odds, but moved forward with the determination of those who knew the entire human race depended on their success. At Bastion, Dr. Chen watched as the sphere's pulsations intensified. The projected map now showed the 7 teams as glowing points moving toward their destinations. President Vance stood beside her, watching the operation unfold with tense anticipation. What happens if they succeed? The president asked quietly. According to our interpretations of the Luminar data, Dr. Chen replied, the system creates an energy field that disrupts certain advanced technologies. We believe it was specifically designed to counter the type of quantum manipulation that the Nelvari use for their weapons and shields. And if it doesn't work? Dr. Chen met the president's gaze steadily. Then we've sent 70 of our best people to their deaths, and we'll need to find another way. Fast. Team Echo used specialized sound dampeners and thermal masking to avoid Nelvari detection systems. They identified a maintenance tunnel that led beneath the processing facility, likely once used by the Luminars to access their installation. As they descended, the air grew noticeably warmer, charged with an energy that made their skin tingle. Captain Rodriguez consulted the activation key, a small crystal shard taken from the sphere that pulsed in rhythm with its parent. The pulsations quickened as they approached a massive door covered in the same shifting geometric patterns. There was no visible handle or control panel, just an indentation in the center that matched the shape of the shard. This is it, she whispered, removing the crystal from its protective case. Echo team in position, ready to activate on command. Similar reports came in from Teams Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. Teams Delta and Foxtrot were engaged with Nelvari forces, but still advancing. Team Gulf, operating in the deep Pacific, had gone silent 20 minutes earlier. We can't wait, President Vance decided. Authorize the remaining teams to proceed with activation. Dr. Chen relayed the order. Captain Rodriguez inserted the crystal shard into the door's indentation. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low resonant hum, the patterns on the door began to flow like liquid light, spreading outward along previously invisible seams in the surrounding rock face. The door slid open, revealing a chamber that glowed with soft blue-white energy. At its center stood a column of crystalline material, pulsing in perfect synchronization with the sphere at Bastion. Captain Rodriguez approached it cautiously, following the activation sequence she had memorized. As she placed her palm against the column, the material beneath her hand became temporarily transparent, revealing an intricate network of energy pathways. The column's pulsations quickened dramatically, and a surge of power rushed upward, erupting through the ceiling toward the surface. Across the globe, the other teams reported similar phenomena. Massive energy columns shot skyward from each activated installation, punching through whatever structures the Nelvari had built above them. The beams of energy continued upward, seemingly into space itself. At first, nothing else happened. The Nelvari, momentarily surprised by the energy manifestations, quickly regrouped. Attack forces converged on the installation sites, determined to neutralize whatever weapon the humans had deployed. Supreme Warlord Kazanar, observing from his command vessel in orbit, ordered an immediate orbital bombardment of the energy beam locations. The Nelvari's most powerful ship-to-surface weapons fired simultaneously at the 7 sites. The energy beams absorbed the attacks completely. Then, in a blinding flash, the beams connected in the upper atmosphere, forming a geodesic network that rapidly expanded to encompass the entire planet. A shimmering shield, visible as a faint iridescent haze, materialized around Earth. The effect was immediate and devastating. For the Nelvari, their weapon systems faltered and failed. Their shields collapsed. Their communications dissolved into unintelligible static. The biomechanical components of their armor seized up, leaving many troops effectively immobilized. "What is happening?" demanded Kazanar as his command ship systems began to fail. Emergency protocols activated, switching to backup systems that were more rudimentary but unaffected by the shield's influence. At Bastion, the sphere had transformed completely, now floating freely above its containment unit, spinning rapidly with pulses of light shooting out to match the rhythm of the planetary shield. Dr. Chen stared in amazement as new data began to project into the air around them. Information about the Nelvari, their technologies, their vulnerabilities. It's not just a shield, she realized. It's gathering intelligence, adapting to their specific systems. The Luminars must have encountered the Nelvari before, or something very similar. President Vance didn't waste time. With the alien forces temporarily crippled, she ordered all remaining military assets to launch coordinated counterattacks. Resistance fighters worldwide received instructions to target specific vulnerabilities in Nelvari physiology and equipment that the Luminar data had revealed. The tide of battle shifted dramatically. Humans, once hopelessly outmatched, found themselves facing an enemy suddenly stripped of their technological advantages. The Nelvari, accustomed to easy conquests through superior technology, were unprepared for the ferocity of humanity fighting for its very existence. Kazanar, watching his invasion collapse, ordered an emergency evacuation. Nelvari troops fell back to their ships, many of which were now operating on reduced capabilities. Some vessels couldn't break free of Earth's gravitational pull and crashed. Others managed to limp away, retreating through the same wormholes they had arrived through. As the last Nelvari ships disappeared from Earth's skies, humanity experienced something they hadn't felt in weeks: hope. The planetary shield continued to pulse steadily, maintaining its protective envelope around the planet. At the United Nations, amid the rubble of what had once been their headquarters, world leaders convened to assess the situation. The cost had been catastrophic: billions dead, cities destroyed, ecosystems damaged. Yet humanity had survived. Dr. Chen presented her findings about the Luminar technology. "The shield appears to be self-sustaining for now," she explained. "But understanding and maintaining it will require a global effort. More importantly, the Luminars left us knowledge, scientific insights that could advance our civilization by centuries." "And warning," added Dr. Okafor, "the data suggests the Nelvari aren't the only hostile species out there. The Luminars encountered several others during their time as galactic guardians." President Vance stepped forward. "Then we have work to do. The shield gives us protection and time, but we need to be ready when they return, or if something worse comes along." In the months that followed, humanity began the long process of rebuilding. The 7 Luminar installations became centers for scientific research and development. Teams of engineers and scientists worked to understand and replicate the alien technology, incorporating it into new defensive systems. Captain Rodriguez, promoted to colonel for her role in Operation Luminary Dawn, now led the newly formed Earth Defense Force Training Academy. The Nelvari thought we would be an easy conquest, she told her first class of recruits. They expected submission or annihilation. What they found instead was a species that refuses to surrender no matter the odds. In orbit, construction began on Earth's first true defensive fleet, incorporating principles derived from both Luminar and salvage Nelvari technology. The ships were named after the teams that had activated the planetary shield: Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, and in memory of those lost in the deep Pacific Gulf. Dr. Chen stood on the observation deck, watching as the prototype vessels underwent their first space trials. The iridescent shield still shimmered faintly in the atmosphere below, a constant reminder of how close humanity had come to extinction. "Do you think they'll come back?" asked Dr. Reeves, joining her at the viewport. Dr. Chen nodded slowly. "The Nelvari, or others, yes, eventually. But next time, we'll be ready. The Luminars didn't just save us. They gave us a chance to become something more, something even they might not have imagined." As night fell across the recovering Earth, people looked up at the stars with new understanding. The universe was vast and filled with dangers, but also with wonders and allies they had yet to discover. Humanity had survived its first true test among the stars.